the Chicago Blackhawks have made some major roster decisions over the past few days that will affect this team in the long term. Now, we'll be going over all of this stuff in this video, but before we get into it, we noticed that 94% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're looking for a spot to get all your news on the Blackhawks and around the league, you're in the right spot. Make sure to stay a while, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the breaking news. But once again, just a quick thing before we get into this. We have to say prayers to Adam Johnson and his family as well, and all of the Nottingham Panthers team. Like, that scenario is absolutely, unbelievable. We can't. There's no words for it. It's a tragic situation. You have to feel for the family, the players, and everybody in attendance having to witness that. The opposing team, So I just want to say prayers up as well for everybody involved in the situation before we get into this video, because the hockey world was stunned by this, and there's no other words. It's just unbelievable, and can't believe it happened in our community. But on a lighter note now, we're going to get on to the actual stuff we have here today for the Chicago Blackhawks. And that's going to begin with the Blackhawks are recalling a promising defenseman that has seen some NHL time before, but not in recent days. And this is going to be, I think, a big thing that they're going to be going over the next few days. Starting tonight, he's in the roster tonight, and that player is Isaak Phillips. The Chicago Blackhawks made a seemingly preemptive roster move Sunday by recalling Isaak Phillips from the Rockford Ice Hogs of the AHL. The transaction comes in the wake of Alex Vlassic suffering an apparent upper body injury on Friday against the Vegas Golden Knights. Vlasic exited early from the game after taking a blindsided hit from Brett Howden in the second period. The team has not provided an update on Vlasic's status since the incident, but it seems likely that the young blue liner will miss some time. And I think that this roster move recalling Isaak Phillips is a good replacement, or as good as you can get for the injured Alex Vlassic. Isaak Phillips hasn't had too much time in the NHL, but we have seen a decent bit from him, and he's been pretty solid over his AHL career. He's not a player that a lot of people will recognize, but, as a defenseman, left-handed defenseman, playing 20 games and having 5 points, that's not bad in my opinion. You can't ask for much more. You can't ask for much more from a defenseman who hasn't played too much in the NHL, and getting, 5 points in 20 games, pretty solid. So I think that we may see him in the NHL for a good while, as long as he can stay, consistent is what the Blackhawks are looking for. So if he can stay consistent, I think Isaak Phillips could be this, replacement for as long as his Alex Vlasic injury will be. But what do you think about the situation? We haven't seen much from Alex Vlasic, but he seems like a pretty solid player to replace for Alex Vlasic right now.
Yeah, well, he's solid. He's only 22 years old. I think he has 20 games. I think it was there
20
under
NHL
his belt.
Games,
yeah. It's a good guy. The whole common theme over there in Chicago this year is sort of let the young guys develop and see where it goes from there. And, one guy comes out and the next guy comes up. And just so happens that Isaak Phillips is the next guy up. I love the fact that he's 22 years old and that they're giving him all the chances in the world. I don't see him being a fully stud, 20-goal defenseman, a 80-point guy. But you have to have those bottom four guys on your defense. There's always a role to play no matter where you play on a defensive core. And I think he could potentially be a bottom four guy, second, third line defenseman down the road for sure.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you there. And they have a lot of people they could have recalled, but having Isaak Phillips, and one thing I forgot to mention as well, I don't have any proof of it here, but you got to just believe me here while I say this. He's in his NHL time that he's there, he's averaged 14 minutes and 50 seconds time on the ice. That's
pretty good.
That's a pretty solid number for a guy who's only had 20 NHL games. But in those games, been pretty solid, and I expect that to continue tonight against the Arizona Coyotes. So I do expect this. I was going to say Phoenix Coyotes then. I do expect this to continue, and we don't really know exactly how long. Like I said, it will be, but having his name being the one that came up to the NHL out of everybody they had down there, names, just one that comes to mind was Ethan Del Mastro. He's definitely needs a bit more development, but he could have been another solid replacement, another solid young guy on that defensive line in the NHL. So I think Isaak Phillips will be a solid replacement. Well, let's have to find out over the next few days, over the next few games, and depending on how long the Alex Vlasic injury is. But on another news about some young defensemen with the Chicago Blackhawks, a very defensive-filled news day today. Kevin Korchinski is seeming to remain with the Blackhawks for this entire season. Now, Kevin Korchinski could have been sent down to the minors if the management wanted to. He's on his ninth game will be tonight, and you have that 10-game rule. But it seems that Richardson said that safe to assume Kevin Korchinski will remain with the Blackhawks past the 10-game threshold. Now, I think this is another thing that is a huge development for this defensive line on the Blackhawks. Kevin Korchinski very solid defenseman. We've seen a lot from him. He's been one of the names that you've been hearing along the guys like Lucas Reichel, Connor Bedard for this Blackhawks future. So I think that having Korchinski up this entire season, if it does remain to be this way, is another huge development. I'm excited to see how this comes. He hasn't been what people are expecting, I think, so far, but that's pretty common. The Blackhawks are not expected to be one of these top teams. People take time to develop. Different players take time to develop, especially defensemen. So, we haven't seen what numbers from the guys in the Blackhawks, what we wanted to see, but I think that only comes with time. And the time is what Kevin Korchinski needs, and time in the NHL is especially what he needs. So, Noah, what do you think about this move as well?
I got to disagree, to be completely honest with you. The Blackhawks we've been saying for the 10 games into the season now, that they're in no position to compete whatsoever. And, I just talked about bringing up the young guys, let the young guys develop. But if a guy's not performing to the way you want, and if he's not, send him back to the juniors. Let him tear up. I think he's over in Seattle. Great city, by the way. Go Hawks. But I think let him tear it up over in Seattle. Give him tons of experience. Let him quarterback a power play one down there and on the juniors. He'll probably make the World Junior team because he's where Seattle or Chicago isn't. He's not on the Blackhawks. I don't know. I like him going back to Seattle and playing, big minutes there, letting his game develop even further.
Yeah, no, I do understand where you're coming from. I'm just thinking that the Blackhawks don't have, a plethora of veteran defensemen, older defensemen that they can just run in the NHL. So I think that I've said this as well before in past videos, that when the younger guys are together, I think you develop that chemistry easier when you're playing together. So that's why I said, like, Lucas Reichel and Connor Bedard, keeping those guys on the forward, but then playing them on the same line, I think are two very different things. So I think, having Kevin Korchinski stay there, maybe pair up with Connor Bedard, Lucas Reichel, some guys who are going to be on this team, for this foreseeable future. I don't see any of those guys, like I just mentioned, be moving at all. I'd say within the next 5 years for sure. So I think that if you keep them together for a longer term, you'll get used to having them on, like, just say the power play, on a line matchup of just say the first line and second line defense pairing. I think that having this in effect will work out in the long term, but not right now. I think that, as well as the skill difference in the WHL compared to the NHL. I think having Kevin Korchinski come up against veteran,
you beat me to it.
veteran NHL players, as well as guys just off the top of my head, like McDavid, Draisaitl, Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, like the superstars of the NHL that we know today. Having him come up against those guys, I think, is a lot better than having him come up against kids that are younger than him, a lot smaller people. So I think grind it out this year. You're not supposed to be good. That's why I think that since they're not supposed to be good, if they do play, not great, it is what it is. You're not going for the win. You're not going for a cup. So having him come up against the trials of McDavid and everybody else like that, I think it would benefit him quicker, solely because the Blackhawks are in no position to win right now. It's just
that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a really good point.
Having the competition be better for him, having him, the Blackhawks obviously have a lot of cap space, so it's not like they're cap crunched or anything. But they might want someone. Keep it open, keep it solid with Kevin Korchinski on his entry-level deal. Have him come up against some very solid NHL defensemen that he'll be seeing a lot more in the future. So I think that keeping him in the NHL will work ultimately better solely because of the Blackhawks. Any other team, I would say, send him back down. They're in no rush. But the Blackhawks are also in no rush, but they're not supposed to be good. And I think it just benefits Kevin Korchinski more.
You got me hooked a little bit on that now, yeah.
It does work out. So I want to know what you guys think as well in the comments below, because obviously we know, everybody knows, and if you say that we're wrong, you're lying. The Blackhawks are in no position to win right now. It's a fact. So I think that, Kevin Korchinski staying up, it won't hurt his development at all as much. I think it may even improve it more than it could if he's in the WHL. So we want to hear what you have to say about that. But that's all we have for this video. We'll be watching the game closely tonight between Arizona. Hopefully it's a big win, The Coyotes bad. We'll be frank with that. They're horrible. Arguably worse than the Blackhawks. So I do expect to be a very good game tonight. See how Isaak Phillips plays. Kevin Korchinski, knowing that he might stay up. We'll see how that affects him mentally. I'm sure that was there in the back of his head, even if it wasn't, his immediate thought. So we'll see everything that happens tonight. We'll be tuning in again at some point, likely tomorrow, but with the a game update. But that's all we have. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe as well if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on any of the Blackhawks news. Like right there, you see it. Subscribe. So that's it.
Right here.
That's all we got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.